welcome to the Capital Discussions Road Trip Trade Alerts weekly update. I'm Tom Nunemaker with Dan Harvey, and Dan's got a spreadsheet up he'd like to show you about some of the metrics we've been working on. So take it away, Dan.
Okay, well, good afternoon, everybody. Tom and I have been churning away here and trying to come up with some metrics that will help make two decisions. Decision number one is, when is the trade running out of steam such that you want to do a reverse Harvey and maybe even think of taking part or all of it off? That's question number one, and we've had a lot of questions in on the website regarding the decision-making process for this sort of thing. So that's question number one. When do we want to reverse Harvey? And, either that or the trade is running out of steam and we're ready to take it off. That's question number one. And question number two, when can you safely reverse Harvey? And they're not the same question, because it is possible to be in a situation in which you might want to do the reverse Harvey to lock in some profit, but maybe you've had to make some adjustments along the way, and it's not really safe to do that. So Tom's going to show you that and some other things. But what I'm working on, and I think this is probably what I'm going to stick with, is a P&L margin ratio calculator. What does that mean? Well, that means that, first let me show you a graph, and then I think you'll be able to see it. Let's look at this one, for example, which is the 1 July. So this is our current 1 July position. And you can see just from eyeballing this, we're about to run out of steam. And what I've done on the steps, I have, in addition to the T plus 0, I have a T plus 10 and a T plus 20. Those are the ones that I mainly look at. And pardon me. What I'm trying to determine is the differential between these steps. Now, we can eyeball this one and say there's not a whole lot of there's not a lot of money left to be made. Conversely, if we were sitting over here, we can see that between now and the T plus 20, there's quite a bit of money to be made. So this is what I'm trying to quantitate. So you can do this either on Option View or Thinkorswim. So you would record on the spreadsheet the current P&L of the open at now, T plus 0, and then you would you'd left click on the wand if you're using Option View, and I think there's a similar way to do this in OptionNet Explorer. You would click on the wand and you'd read the T plus the P&L at T plus 10, which I think is about 867. These aren't exact. And you'd put that in the spreadsheet. Then you'd click on the T plus 20.
I think you were on T plus 20 before.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Yeah. Okay. T plus 10, you're at 882. If I read that right, I better get my glasses on.
Yeah, that looked right.
Okay. And then a T plus 20, you're at the 867. So you would put those numbers then into the spreadsheet. And this is the one that we had. And this is not the right number. I was doing something else here. So let me go back and get the, 750 it should be this number. And this number, do you happen to recall what I said, Tom?
I think it was 882 and then 867.
Yeah, which was which?
T plus 10 was 882.
Yeah, that's right, and then 867.
867, yep.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And we have a current margin of this of 15,000. So the differences are expressed then here. And if you simply do a ratio and then a percentage, so the calculation is you would make the difference as the numerator, the reg T margin as the denominator, multiplied by 100. So you get a number something like this. And what we are working on is to see if we want to add, some additional number to the calculation. But so far, this gives some pretty meaningful information. These are obviously very low. I've done these on a couple of others. This is also low on the 15 July. So as Tom mentioned in the images that he recorded yesterday, we're going to probably reverse Harvey both of these. This one is close, and this one, these numbers are also very low, so we're probably going to be doing the reverse Harvey on this as well. So, but conversely, if this T plus 20 number was something like 6 or 7, and this number was 4 or 5, then that's going to correlate with the fact that you have a fair amount of differential between the curves, and therefore the trade is still percolating. So that's what we are working on, one of the metrics we're working on, and when we finally decide on this one, I think Tom's going to write the code for this and make this available, and all you'd have to do would be to punch in those numbers. Now, if you're using thinkorswim to punch in the numbers, it gets a little more complicated because, as you know, thinkorswim does not, I'm not on the right one here, thinkorswim does not keep tabs on any adjustments that you've made. The only thing that the graphs show is the P&L of the open positions. So obviously I haven't made 11,000 in this trade, but that's just the P&L of the open. But what you can do, you can put that number, in, and then you can do a day step. And so I have this 3-day step on 10. So the cyan line would be the T plus 10, and the orange would be the 20. And you simply would read those numbers off, over here on the left. You'd simply read those numbers off, and the differential numbers are going to be about the same, and you would still get a very similar result for these numbers. So I think that's going to be a useful metric. You can get a lot of information, of course, simply by looking at the eyeball, of these positions. Using the 10 and 20 lines. So obviously on the 1 July we're getting very close. So we need to be thinking about doing more reverse Harvey, but as Tom will show you, we need to temper that against a risk because we basically have 2 mantras for the road trip trade. One of them is we want to err on the side of caution, and the other mantra is the tortoise one, the slow and steady wins the race. So we don't want to do anything to compromise the money that we've already made on these trades. So what this looks like on this one is we need to be thinking about doing another reverse Harvey fairly soon because if we keep going up, we're running out of steam. But we're only going to do it if we're not going to introduce any additional risk. And you can see a very similar pattern on some of these others. This is the 15 July. We can't wait till the T plus 30 line because that's going to be losing us money over here. But between now and the 20 line, we do still have some more money to be made here. The trade's still percolating. And on the 29 July is this one, the trade is definitely still percolating. So that's the way.
So visually you can just see the separation between the lines, and that's kind of how we've been doing it before, just kind of eyeballing it, but we thought it'd be nice for people to have some numeric version of it that they could quantify, okay, if I haven't done anything now, the lines are converging and I need to do something.
Well, that's exactly right. I mean, Tom just now hit the nail on the head. what he and I usually do is we just sort of eyeball this because we've been, trading butterflies for years and years and years and years, and we can just sort of see the way this is working. And obviously over here, there's not much money to be made, but when you're sitting over here, you do have to ask the question at some point, how long do I want to stay in the trade here? Because you're going to, you will have made some good money over here, and you don't want to take a chance of suddenly going over here, and you're likely not going to drop way back over here. So what I do in that situation, when I've, decided that I've made nearly all the money that I can make at the current market price, I'm going to think about maybe taking off 1/2 or 1/3 of the position. And the reason I don't take it all off is because if we had a pullback, there's yet more money to be made, right, Tom?
Yep.
So that's our rationale here. So that was about all that I wanted to show on this. And so the spreadsheet will look something like this, except it'll be done much better than my crude machination on this thing here. Tom will do a great job. But it's going to look something like this, and all you have to do is to plug in, a couple numbers, and you will get a usable metric.
Yep, so I'll get that coded up this coming week, I'm guessing. At least version 1, and we'll play around with it, and when we're happy with it, we'll release it to everybody.
Right.
Okay, so let's switch screens, and I'll show you some of the stuff that I added this week, and we can talk about the probability of touching and that kind of stuff. So let's switch screens here. Okay, so we've switched over to my screen, and right now I've got the Open tab clicked. So you probably notice if you've been on the site in the last day or two, it's changed a bit. So all the stuff at the bottom is mostly the same. I did add current P&L and P&L percentage on here, so that's kind of nice. You can see how the trades are doing. But then this probability cone data, it's not graphical. It's more of a tab format, and all you need to look at really is this color coding over on the right. And what I'm doing is I have all of our open positions, and then I track the starting price of the underlying and the volatility. And then I'm calculating the days that I'm in the trade, and then based on that and what you've set for, and this, you as the user can change this. If you want to use 365 days in a year or 250 or something, you have a little bit of control over that, and that's used in the standard deviation calculations. So as long as the price is within plus or minus 1 standard deviation of where the trade started, this will be green. Once it gets between +1 and +2, or between -1 and -2, it'll change to yellow. And if it goes below 2 standard deviations or above 2 standard deviations, then it'll be that kind of orange color. So all you need to do is just check here and see, okay, everything's green, and green is good, like a stoplight, kind of. And the point of that is that when we put these trades on, there's a probability cone that we're assuming with normal option trades, and this is just telling us that we're still in the same data set or cone that we started with. And do you want to make any other comments about the cone and how to interpret those, Dan?
No, that's, you said it in a nutshell. Basically what this is, the question this is trying to answer, as Tom indicated, is, number one, are we still in the same data set? And number two, are the probability, estimates and our, initial trade setup, are they still valid? And while it is okay to maybe for a day or two dip into the area, outside of the 1 standard deviation level, either up or down, if that tends to persist, then we may be entering a new data set, and therefore, all the assumptions that we made based on probability when the trade was launched may no longer be valid, and we may want to think about doing something, and especially if it's on the downside. Now, probably by that time, one of the protective puts would have been hit. But if this continues on, and if we have dropped out of the one standard deviation for several days down below, it may be time to check our P&L, and if we're down somewhere around 5%, by that time, we're just going to say sayonara. Because one of the goals of the service here, and of the way that both Tom and I trade this, again, we want to err on the side of caution, is we don't want to lose much more than 5%, because that's going to, give us the positive expectancy that we want. Because as you've seen in recent cycles, we've been making above 5%, and we've had some double digits, and we want them to be greater than the occasional loss, which we will take at around 5%. So that's the rationale behind this. And the only other thing, Tom, I don't think you mentioned about the way the data comes in and about how you refresh it, or did you say that? I don't think so.
No, I was going to just mention that. So I'm pulling from Yahoo during the week to get this delayed price data, and that happens about every 2.5 minutes or so. But for this kind of cone thing, that's usually fine. This is pretty granular. I could probably even do it just once or twice a day, to be honest. But every, I think, 2 minutes and 37 seconds or something like that, it actually will refresh, and it'll tell you how long it's been since it's updated. So it might say, like, updated 20 seconds ago or 2 minutes ago, but don't expect it to go over about 2 minutes and 37 seconds during the market hours. And this is automatic. It automatically does this. You don't have to do anything. But the only thing you can change, in fact, is how many days. So if I switch this to 365, let's see what happens. So this is at 2335. So if I refresh this, now it's at 2287. So you can see the 365 calendar days in a year is what the option pricing models are based off of, but a lot of traders use some shorter number of actual trading days, and you can see that it actually makes the standard deviation cones wider if you use less days in a year, which is more conservative. So if you do 365 days, you're going to get the smallest standard deviation cones. And if you use something like 252, which I think is the default, they're a little bit wider. But again, you can change that. Depends on your risk tolerance and what you like to see.
So I think this is an excellent tool, and I think it's good for all the subscribers to check this at least once a day and make sure that we're still in the same data set. And I will say Tom has done just a fantastic job on putting these things together and making them easy to see and easy to interpret.
Right.
And we're lucky that we have someone so skilled to be able to do that, because I've been doing this just on my own, prior to joining Capital Discussions, and I've been doing fine, but it's more tedious because I have to do things by the seat of my pants and build things on my own little spreadsheet, and I'm not that good at it. So Tom has done a great job.
Well, happy to help. And just another thing, I did add this Tools tab, and right now I've got a Trade King probability calculator on it. It's just iframed in, but I think I've got SPX. You can use other symbols actually if you wanted to, like RUT or Apple or whatever. And it'll actually pull in the underlying price and these volatilities. What I've been doing, like say I'm looking at the July 1st, like we were just looking at, notice it just updated that volatility. And I think Option View uses the historical volatility. So if we're looking about 30 days out, I would use that one. And then our price target, I don't even know, just say 2,000 via calculate. This is showing you what the probability of touching the 2,000 price level for SPX, given that it's at 2,099 by July 1st. So this is a really handy calculator. There's also something like this in Option View. Let me just pause the recording and switch over to the Option View calculator.
Yeah.
But
Okay.
before I do that, Dan had something to say.
Oh, I was just going to say that if you change the signal, the symbol, like if you put in rut, you have to click on the go button.
Right. It's not automatic.
Yeah.
You
But
can see
everything
there, it
else
just
is
pulled
automatic.
in all the RUT data. Right.
Yeah. So that was all. I just wanted to make sure everybody was aware that if you change the symbol, you gotta hit go before you get any new information.
Yeah, it's a great little tool, though. I like it. So let's
I use
pull
it
up the
every day.
option. Well, and it's handy on the website too. So you just
Yeah.
hit tools, and there it is. So,
Yep.
but if you do have option view, there's another calculator in there I'll show you, and that's what I've been using on the images. So let me just switch over to that. Okay, so I'm in option view now, and if you've noticed this prob button, that's probability calculator. So right now I've got SPX open, so it pulled in the SPX information, and then I just say how many days ahead I want to go, I hit enter, and then this tells me the date that I'm looking for, and maybe I actually want 28 now. And then the strike 2000 and 1940, so this is the first target, and here's the probability of touching the lowest target, 1940, and of the highest target. So we're at an 8.1% probability of touching that 2000 strike right now. And this is the probability calculator built into option views. You don't have to use the Trade King one if you don't want to. You certainly could use this, but if you don't have option view or you find it more convenient to do it on the website, feel free to use that iVolatility one because that's a very nice one.
So,
okay, so
this answers question number 2. When is it safe to do the reverse Harvey? You recall with the P&L, either eyeballing the future P&L, estimate, or using the metric on the spreadsheet that I showed you. That's question number 1 that we want to answer. Is it now time to begin thinking about doing the reverse Harvey to preserve our profit? Question number 2, can we safely do that? And so using this calculator, if you think about it, if the probability of ever touching whatever strike you put in there, which might be the short strike, or it might be your upper long put, or it might be a point, say, midway between the short strike and the upper long put. Well, anyway, if the probability of touching that is around 45%, that's almost a coin toss. So that's going to tell you that it's almost a coin toss that you may have to do something. So you may not want to increase your risk exposure, which of course you do to a minimal extent by doing the reverse Harvey, even if you do it on both sides, because you've given up part or all of the upper long put. So you have increased your risk exposure, a little bit, and you have to answer the question again. We want to err on the side of caution. You have to answer the question, is it really worth it? Now, if the number is, say, less than 35%, certainly less than, 32%, I say go for it, because the odds are that even if you touch that, it is likely not going to be tomorrow, and by that time, you may either be out of the trade or you may have taken off, say, half of it, and you've got your profit, and you can afford to, take your significant other out to dinner and do all the things that you do. But if it's like 45% or something, that's almost a coin toss. So you may want to rethink that. That's the way I think about it. How about you, Tom?
yeah, absolutely. This is the 1 July trade we were looking at earlier, and this is the image that I posted yesterday. So you can see this is at expiration. There's only a 27% chance it's going to get here. Now it's interesting if you look at the delta is minus 20 roughly, minus 19.5. The probability of touching is a little bit higher, but the odds that this trade is going to get in big trouble are pretty small at this point. And if we pull up some of the other ones that we had, like here's the July 15th SPX trade. This probability touching is down to 17.9% versus a 16 delta. So these are the kinds of things where it's getting safer and safer, and you can see this is getting farther away from the upper lawn. And this is, which one is this? This is the June 16th. So this one expires in 2 weeks. And the probability of touching right now is 0.8%. So you can see that the lines are very compressed. The premium is really evaporating quickly, and the probabilities of getting down here are approaching zero. You know, to get down to your downside, the break even on the downside, 0.1% chance of even touching it, let alone expiring there. So this is an example of it's super, super safe, but you're not going to get much premium. And then if we back up to, say, the July 1, this is the one that we have a lot of discussions about. This is, remember, we had the 2 protective puts on this. So we have a previously realized loss that we're kind of fighting a little bit. So it's a dilemma of when do you reverse Harvey versus is it safe to do it? And right now we're at 27% at expiration. If you do it at our target exit date, it's going to be less than that. And you can see the 2 standard deviation cone on the T plus 13 line is actually inside the expiration tent. So at our first target exit date, it's actually looking pretty safe. So it's useful information to see. You know, if you're down here and this probability touching, like Dan said, is up 30-40%, then you might be kind of slow to do some reverse Harveys. You know, maybe try and wait a little bit. But as these start coming down and the time shrinks, these standard deviations shrink, the probabilities reduce. Premium does too, but you know, you don't want to put these on too fast and too aggressively. It's like the carpenter adage, you know, measure twice and cut once. So you want to take your time, make sure you get it right, and then do the reverse Harveys.
Well, that's exactly right, and that's a very good demonstration. I should point out that, you know, Tom and I don't know what you, the listener, has. We don't even know if you trade. You could just be listening to us every Saturday and never trading at all. We don't know, and frankly, we shouldn't know because we're an educational service only. So none of the things that we are saying here are in response to any trade that you may or may not have. These are the trades we have on. But I should also say that these tools that we have shown will work for whatever you have on and whatever size you have on, if you have anything on. If you are trading the road trip and you have different strikes than we do or smaller size, these same tools will work for you. But, we look at this, or at least I do, and I think Tom does, as well. But when I'm trading during the day, I look at these tools and I study them very carefully before I make my own personal decisions. And so, if you are trading, and whatever size you may be trading or strikes, we would recommend you study these as well.
And before we wrap it up, we should just step through our open positions. I'll just go through the screenshots because they're kind of annotated already. But this one is the one that's expiring in 2 weeks. We're up a really healthy profit of $2,000, over 13%. It's looking very safe. The probability of touching is very small. We're within about 2.5, 3 standard deviations at expiration of hitting the downside break even. So at this point, the premium's too small to do really reverse Harvey. So at this point, I think we're just going to put it on automatic. Do you have any different ideas, Dan?
Nope. I agree 100%.
Okay.
That's exactly what I'm going to do.
So we're just letting this one coast out. And see, the next one I had is the June monthly expiration. So this one, this is July. So the slide, the images might not be exactly in expiration order. So this is the July 14th SPX, up 7.4%, almost $1,000. Looking pretty good. You can see we still have some theta in it. The lines are definitely converging, and the probability of touching is getting much smaller. So This one looks like it may be okay to do some reverse Harvey soon, but it's in really good shape, honestly.
Yeah, I think what I'm going to do, and I don't know what you're going to do in your own personal account, but what I'm going to do is maybe get in one more round of reverse Harvey, and then maybe take off one half of it at some point, and just let the other half sit there just in case we get a pullback. But it all depends on where the market is and what my level of safety is. Right now, this looks pretty safe to me. So I think the first thing I might do is to do a reverse Harvey, and then if we pull back a little bit, and if I can capture some more of that premium, I'll take off half of it, and then let the rest of it run, knowing that it's going to be a profitable trade in all likelihood.
Yeah, so it's looking pretty good, isn't it? I mean,
Yeah.
7% is nothing to complain about.
Nope.
Okay, so the next image we've got is for our July 1st. This is the one we were looking at earlier, the one where we had the two protected puts and have since taken them off. We are up money, 3%, still some positive theta, and you can look at the expiration or the break even up here, so it even has some room before it hits that. So we do have a little bit of negative delta of minus 23 versus our positive 67 theta. But there's still room above us, so or sky above us, as we used to say in flying. And yeah, the 27% is getting lower. It was in the 30s before, but it's getting more comfortable to maybe do another reverse Harvey. And we don't have to take it above zero. We can maybe cut this in half or something, just to eke it up a little bit, and to start making sure we don't have a loss on the upside. Any other comments about this one, Dan?
No, that's exactly what I plan to do. Very, very cautiously, I will probably do at least one more reverse Harvey on this. But very cautiously, I would like to capture some of that premium that's sitting there in the blue line. But if we did have a fairly significant market pullback, I might start taking off half the position, both for risk management and also I may have captured a little bit of that blue line.
Right. Okay, so the next one we have to look at is our Russell trade, which is up 6.5%. This one's looking very nice, probably touching is 12.5%. I think that's at expiration. So it's looking pretty safe at this point. Obviously, nothing's 100% safe, but it's up $750, and maybe we can get this up to 1,000 before we're done. But even if we don't, it's 6.6% right now with 40 days to go. So there's still quite a bit of premium available to us. So we might be doing more reverse Harveys on this one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'd like to pull a little more out of this, and the same thing, here, if we did have a pullback and we're on, it looks like we are heading toward some of that profit on the blue line there, that the dashed line, might take off, half of it and leave the rest of it on, in play, knowing that we have essentially locked in a profit in all likelihood.
Yeah, this is a good one for sleeping at night. The gamma's almost zero, so I mean, you can even take a 50 or 60 point hit on the Russell, and you're still making money. So
right, exactly.
That's what I like about this trade. Good sleep. And let's see,
we
have the 29 July expiration. We're up to almost 3%, and we've been in this, I don't know, maybe 2-3 weeks, something like that. Still a lot of time to go, 56 days. But you can see the probability touching. This trade was put on, and the market started going up right away. So it's in pretty good shape. At the T+41, we're within 2 standard deviations. The break even at our target exit is outside of 2 standard deviations, which is very comforting for me. That's getting pretty low chance it actually is going to get down here. And we've raised this up a bit, so it's in positive territory. and the blue line's still above us. We got 24 theta, so I would consider doing more reverse Harveys on this because we still have premium and it's getting fairly safe.
Right. And I would agree with that. Yeah. But at the same time, so I mean, yes, I think we do need to do another reverse Harvey, at least one more round, maybe two. But again, we we seem to be very safe in terms of the probability of touching. But the one caveat for me is we have a lot of time left. So
Yep.
I don't want to be too aggressive on the reverse Harvey process. What do you think, Tom?
Yeah, I like keeping the line flat, and we do have positive theta. Gamma is almost zero, so
Yep.
as long as it's still making some money for us, if it keeps moving higher, then I'd be kind of inclined to do reverse Harveys sooner rather than later.
Oh
But
yeah.
if it's
Yeah.
but if it sits here and moves lower, then we'll just hold off on that.
Yep.
And
I
I think
think we
that's it.
agree.
I think that's it for our open trade. So that's I think everything that we need to cover, Dan. Anything else before we wrap it up?
I think we got it all, buddy.
All right. So I hope you enjoy the service and learn a lot from it, and apply these principles to your own trades. And thanks again for the journey with us. We really appreciate it. And Dan and I are having fun with this, so I hope you are too.
Yep. And we'll see you next week.
All right. We'll see you, everyone. Bye.